Every day, fresh cassava roots arrive from nearby farms. Unloading is the first hands-on step. Before washing, workers remove any foreign objects that could damage equipment. Rotary washers use high-pressure jets to dislodge soil while the drum gently tumbles the roots. Soil and sand settle here and are continuously removed to keep the system clean.
After washing, each root is visually inspected. Only prime roots proceed to peeling.
Hydrocyclones spin the liquid fast, separating heavy grit and impurities from the starch stream.
You can actually see it. One line carries cleaner water, the other carries starch-heavy slurry.
A quick sample confirms starch concentration before dewatering by centrifuge.
Operators verify solids content so the next machine runs in its optimal range.
The decanter spins at high speed, forcing water out and concentrating the starch.
A final rinse removes any remaining peel dust before grinding. The hammer mill grinds roots into a fine pulp, the first step to extracting starch. This pulp is about 40% water and 60% starch fibers, ready for extraction. Pumps move the pulp to the dewatering stage, where starch milk is separated. That white liquid is starch milk, and this is what becomes cassava rice after refining and drying. A transfer pump moves the starch milk forward without breaking the flow.
Wet screening removes stray fibers that would cause dark specks in the final grain.
The rejected fiber is collected separately. Only clean starch milk moves on.
Abrasive rollers remove the tough brown skin without wasting the white flesh.
Inside the press, rotating screws push pulp forward while liquid starch escapes through fine screens. A small belt speed change can mean the difference between perfectly dry granules and wet spots. Dryers also pull tiny starch particles into the air. Dust control keeps the plant safe and clean.
Now the starch is a heavy paste, still wet, but clean and ready for conditioning.
Enclosed conveyors keep the starch clean while moving it to the next controlled step.
A tiny water adjustment helps make the moisture uniform, which prevents clumping in the dryer.
The dryer needs a consistent bed thickness, too thick, and the center stays wet.
As soon as it enters the tunnel, hot air pulls moisture out. Steam you see is water leaving the starch.
Stage 1 dries the surface gently to prevent hard lumps forming too early.
Nothing is wasted. Fines go right back to the forming step to become full grains again. A buffer silo keeps the packaging line stable, even if the forming line shifts slightly.
Even in a good run, a few clumps form. Operators break them before cooling.
By stage 2, the starch becomes free-flowing, and the dryer can remove moisture faster. Even in a good run, a few clumps form. Operators break them before cooling. Cooling stabilizes the starch, so it won't sweat and clump in storage.
Every batch is sampled at the dryer exit to confirm safe moisture flow.
Moisture is the key number. Too wet won't form properly. Too dry won't bind. Once moisture hits target, the starch is ready for the step that makes it look and cook like rice.
A bucket elevator carries the dry starch to the forming line without contamination.
The system meters the feed precisely, so each batch forms the same grain size. Agglomeration uses controlled steam and shear to make small starch particles stick into rice. With the right steam level, the starch turns tacky just long enough to form stable kernels.
At the outlet, the grains already resemble rice, but they still need setting and final drying.
A fluidized bed uses air to dry and harden each grain evenly, without crushing.
Once hardened, the grains can be screened and graded. This is where uniformity is made.
A buffer silo keeps the packaging line stable, even if the forming line shifts slightly. From here, everything is measured by weight, so each bag matches the label. The film is threaded and tracked by sensors, so the print lands perfectly on every bag. Heat and pressure create the vertical seam. This seal is what keeps moisture out.
Each cycle forms the bag, seals the base, then drops a measured dose of cassava rice inside.
The top seal is the final barrier. Operators watch for clean, wrinkle-free seams.
Batch codes make every bag traceable back to the exact production run.
Every bag is weighed on the fly. Anything off-spec is automatically rejected.
Metal detection is a final safety step. Machines are tough, but food safety is tougher.
From here, bags are organized for boxing and palletizing.
Cartons protect the bags during shipping and keep the product square on pallets.
The case sealer locks the top flaps and applies tape under constant pressure.
Labels connect cartons to the same traceability system as the bags.
Robotic palletizers stack consistently, important for stable loads in trucks.
Each movement is programmed to keep edges aligned and corners protected.
Slip sheets add friction between layers so the load won't shift during transport.
Stretch film tightens the entire stack into one stable unit.
The wrapper changes speed and tension automatically to protect corners without crushing cartons. Pallet labels tell the warehouse exactly where this batch is headed. Forklift drivers move slow here. One sudden jerk can compromise a full load.
Loads are staged by batch, so QC can release them in order. QC keeps a retained sample from every batch. Traceability is part of food safety.
A sieve test confirms how much is whole grain versus broken or fine material. If the distribution shifts, operators adjust the agglomerator or screens.
Finished moisture confirms shelf stability. Too high can cause caking or spoilage.
A quick cook test checks texture. Kernels should stay separate, not turn gummy. Steam reveals how the grain structure holds after cooking. The goal is a clean, rice-like bite.
They also check for specks, often caused by peel or fiber if earlier filtration slips.
Microchecks are routine. Even dry products are monitored for safe handling.
While full micro results take time, the batch can move with standard release criteria met.
Once core parameters pass, QC releases the batch for shipment. Warehouse control only ships pallets that are electronically cleared. No shortcuts. Now it's logistics, moving product fast, but still carefully.
At the dock, simple safety steps, like wheel chocks, prevent accidents during loading.
Pallets are placed tight to reduce movement. Less movement means less damage.
Securing the load prevents shifting on turns, protecting both product and driver. A numbered seal shows if the trailer is opened before it reaches its destination.
The final paperwork ties together traceability, batch code, pallet ID, and destination.
From raw route to packed product, this batch is now on its way.
Good factories don't just produce, they clean as they go to keep every run hygienic.
Sanitation closes the loop, protecting the next batch before it even starts. Up close, the grains look like rice, but they're formed from refined cassava starch.
Dryness matters. Good cassava rice stays free-flowing and won't cake in the bag.
A light table makes any contamination stand out immediately.
Factories keep reference standards, so today's product matches last month's. Consistency is the real goal.
This is what leaves the factory, sealed, coated, and ready for shelves.
The cooking method is simple, like rice, but the texture comes from controlled starch processing.
To show the result, we'll cook the same grains made in the plant.
Notice how the grains settle. Uniform size helps them cook evenly.
Heat activates the starch structure formed during agglomeration.
As it cooks, moisture moves into each grain, just like rice, but with cassava at the core.
The goal is separation, distinct grains that don't collapse into paste.
When processing is correct, the grains fluff and separate with almost no sticking.
That's the end result of all those factory steps. Simple food, built from careful control. From raw cassava roots to a rice-like grain, this is starch engineering you can eat.
Behind every bag is a chain of checks: washing, extraction, forming, drying, and safety controls.
The final grain is dry, uniform, and designed to cook evenly.
Once wrapped and labeled, the batch is ready to move, fully traceable and protected.
The last pallet goes in. This is the moment production turns into delivery. One route shipment in, thousands of servings out, made with controlled industrial precision.
That's cassava rice, clean, consistent, and made from roots through a carefully controlled factory process.